How would you feel if I told you that you are wasting most of your life, or that you won't even remember most of your life? In a recent meditation session that I was in, the instructor opened my eyes to just how much of our lives are actually spent in these mundane moments that we either don't remember or that we're always rushing through and that we are never present for. And I want to share these statistics with you to get started with the episode because they blew my mind and really changed the way that I saw these mundane moments that often, again, we just want to fast forward through. But quickly before we dive in, first of all, if you haven't noticed, I'm in a podcast studio, which is kind of fun if you're an active listener of Fulfilled. Anyways, if you're not, you're probably like, I don't care, get to the episode. So we will get to it. But before we dive in, don't forget to press follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. This will give you access to episodes every single week when they come out to help you take steps to live a more fulfilling life. So let's get to it. This is how many years in an average lifetime that we spend these mundane moments. Sleeping, on average 26.7 years. Getting ready, 3.3 years. Commuting or traveling, also 3.3 years. Cleaning and chores, about 3 years. Waiting in line, 1.7 years. Eating and meal prep, 5 years. Watching TV, over 6 years. Using the phone and social media, over 6 years. And shopping and running errands, about 3.5 years. Ultimately, if we combine this, tasks that we would consider more mundane, ones like I just listed, make up about 62 years of our life on average. This is about 77%. These are routine, daily, mundane tasks, right? And that leaves only 23%, or about 18 years, of the more intentional and meaningful moments, the ones that we actually look forward to and actually try to be present for. And I don't know about you, but these statistics really opened my eyes. And what it revealed to me is how much of our lives are really in the mundane, in these transition moments, and in these moments we don't give a second thought. Most of our life is spent in those moments. And it brought this quote to mind, or this saying that I was told a while ago by someone, I think like a friend of my mom's. And when I heard it, I kind of felt resistance towards it because I really didn't like how it initially made me feel. So it's the idea that most of our life is the mundane, is spent in the mundane. And how I initially took it was, so we're just supposed to settle for the mundane, like our life is just supposed to be like average and okay. Like I want my life to be extraordinary and great. But now I see it from a totally different lens. And hearing these statistics brought me back to this idea and message, because now how I really see it and understand it is that most of our life is in fact in these mundane moments, in these moments of transition. But it's not about settling for our life being just average or mundane. To me, what all of this represents is an invitation to start to be more present for these moments, to actually pay attention and start to be there and be more intentional for all of these moments that we normally are totally mentally elsewhere for, or we're just fast forwarding through to get to the exciting moments, to get to that 23%, right? And all of this got me to thinking, how can we really start to actually cherish this 70-some%, I forgot what I said, 77% on average. Again, that's how much of our life is spent in these mundane or transition or more dull moments, right? How can we start to live them more fully? How can we integrate them into this life that we want to feel fulfilling and not just live for that 23%? Because another thing that came to mind when I was hearing this from that meditation instructor and then just reflecting on it and giving it more thought is so much of us are living for that vacation, right? That 2 weeks of PTO that we finally get. We're trudging away the 5 days of the work week to live for the weekend. We are looking forward to those big moments, to that 23%, to the moments that we feel like are going to be exciting and stimulating. And again, I always felt resistance to live that way. I always had this goal of wanting my Tuesdays to feel like my Saturdays, right? Like looking forward to every day the same amount, having that joy and excitement going into every day, not dreading Monday through Friday and living for the weekend, or not dreading going to work and just waiting for that vacation to come around. What I now know to be true, and the message that I really want to send today, is it's not about chasing these super exciting and stimulating moments. It's not about filling our life with the endless vacation and just making the weekend last forever. It's not about just chasing the next high. Because I think what that does is it, again, continues to make us just fast forward past these mundane moments and never be present for them. And then again, we're missing 77% of our lives. I think the beautiful part of life is cherishing these mundane moments, the seemingly slow and unexciting moments on the surface. There is so much joy to be had in those moments. But the reason that so many of us aren't feeling joy from these moments and just wanting to just skip ahead to the exciting thing is because we're not present for them. We're missing them. And so what I think the shift is, at least how I've shifted, and I hope that I can help some of you shift, is not reducing the mundane from our life, but being more intentional and present in the mundane moments, in these moments of transition. Because again, if we're not present for the 77% on average, maybe it's a little more, maybe it's a little bit less for you, we're missing most of our life. We're just living for 20-some% of our life. And so for me, what that's looked like is when I'm commuting somewhere, when I'm walking somewhere or driving somewhere, being present there, not letting my mind drift to all the million other things I need to do, but practicing being present in that commute, or brushing my teeth, doing the dishes, doing laundry, right? These more mundane chores and tasks that we often just are either rushing through to get to our plan and the thing we need to do, or listening to music in a podcast to numb it away and just continue to think about how much we don't want to be doing that right now. We're shedding a negative light on these mundane moments, and we're surely not being present for them. But the more present and mindful we show up for these moments, a couple things happen. First, like I said, we're going to be actually so much more present for that 77% of our life that is spent in these moments. Again, maybe that's commuting, doing laundry, doing the dishes, brushing your teeth, having that conversation with a stranger. All of these things that we didn't factor in, or that we don't want to be doing, or that are just maybe getting in the way of the exciting thing. Being present for these moments means that we're going to be actually present and not miss most of our life. And second, in being present for these moments and showing up with intention to them, we can actually start to get joy from those moments. The reason these moments, at least I've found, have not felt exciting or like anything to really care about or even give consideration towards is because we're never present for them. But if we bring presence and mindfulness to these things, they can become far more enjoyable, maybe even something that's peaceful. Like for me, eating breakfast. Normally I'd be like rushing through eating my oatmeal bowl and just drinking my coffee while I'm doing work tasks. But recently I've actually practiced like taking at least 5 minutes or so to just be present with the breakfast that I'm eating. Normally I would just add it on to whatever task I needed to rush through, and I was never really present for actually enjoying that meal. Like if you asked me how was my oatmeal, I wouldn't have really known because I was just immersing myself in work. But to me, I've actually noticed I get so much more joy and pleasure in actually taking the 5 minutes to be present, to intentionally eat my oatmeal, as silly as that might sound, or again, whatever chore and task and commute. Practicing just doing that thing, slowing down and being more mindful for it to actually make it a part of our life that we're going to remember and be more present and intentional for. And so not only will this allow us to be present for more of our life, it'll bring more joy to our life, but another big reason to be more present for these mundane moments and more intentional in them is because how we show up for these small moments, in these in-between moments, is exactly how we're going to show up for the bigger moments. And this is a big point that I want to dive into a little bit. When I think about the vacations I go on, I notice that I find it really hard to slow down and be present for all the things I was looking forward to for weeks because I was just in that autopilot mode of rushing through the moments in my everyday life. Like if I was going on a beach vacation, all that was on the itinerary was going and sitting on the beach, right? But I noticed that when I would do that, I would have this trouble and resistance to slowing down because I wasn't slowing down and being present for all these moments in my everyday life. So therefore, that's going to translate and carry over to the vacation. We don't just have this ability to turn on and off that ability to be present or not. The way that we show up in our everyday life in these seemingly mundane and smaller moments is what we also carry to the bigger ones. And so if we're not able to, or if we're just not intentionally being present for these mundane moments, then we're not going to be able to be present for the bigger ones. Quick little interruption here. If this episode is resonating with you, if you find yourself in this autopilot, skipping through the mundane moments, not even really sure what you're living for in this moment, I'm now working one-on-one with clients in my life coaching practice, and I would love to help you take steps towards a life that feels more fulfilling, towards a life that you're excited about. So if any of this interests you and you want to explore more, check out my website linked below. set up a free session with me. I would love to learn more about your life and help open your eyes to the amazing possibilities and potential that you can step into. Okay, let's get back to the episode. And when I think of where my mind goes in these in-between moments, in these moments of transition, it's always thinking about that next big thing, that next thing I need to do, that next place I need to go, or that next trip I want to book. If you're at a meal, maybe it's that next meal you're going to eat. We're always looking ahead. And so then what I've noticed in my life is then when I'm at that actual event or plan that I was looking forward to, I'm thinking ahead. I'm not as present for it because it's like I've trained my brain to always just look ahead to the next thing, to be chasing that next big thing. So maybe I am on that vacation and I'm thinking about the next trip or thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow and not being present for that day. Or it's like when I think about when I used to go out on weekends with friends to bars when I was living in New York City, I noticed this weird thing where I would be at the bar, like standing with friends or something, and I would just be thinking about like, what other bar should we go to though? You know, like maybe we should go to the next one. Maybe that one will be better. Like not being present where I was with my friends, that was the point, but just thinking about like where else might be better that we could go and just simply not being there for it. And I do think it's because our brains have been trained to not be present for it because we're constantly skipping ahead in these mundane moments. In 77% of our life, most of us are rushing through. We're trying to get through it to get to those exciting moments. But if you ask yourself, how present really are you when those exciting moments come around? When that 23% comes around, how able are you to be fully present? Or are you thinking of the next thing? This is another random example that's coming to mind, maybe because my mom's a wedding planner, but there's so much little mundane detail that goes into planning a wedding, right? And all these meetings you might want to be rushing through and just like make the decisions already and rushing to get to the day. Maybe not even being fully present for all of those meetings and the whole process and the journey. All the mundane moments that leads up to that big moment. But then when you get to the day, if you're not present for any of the buildup, how present are you going to be able to be for the big event? Like, if you ask me, it'd be impossible to just turn on the present switch if you're constantly just thinking about the future. So that was just another example that came to mind. So these are all the reasons why it is more important to be more present for these mundane moments, and that the idea isn't to, again, reduce the amount of mundane and just add in more and more excitement, but to show up with more presence, show up with more intention to make the mundane feel just as joyful as those big moments can be. So how do we do this, right? Like, how am I supposed to enjoy doing laundry, doing dishes, commuting to work and sitting in traffic? Are you kidding me? Like, that sounds boring. You might be frustrated with my answer. And yes, it sounds very simple, but as I said, mindfulness. The more present we can be for these moments, the more joy we're going to feel from them. The less we're going to miss them. The less we're going to miss out on our life. The more we're going to be able to remember those moments, to be there for it, to feel more joy from them, to not feel like we're constantly just rushing through life and trying to get to the next thing. For me, what helps is practicing sitting in silence. Like, I used to constantly have music in my ears in whatever I was doing, going on a walk, cleaning, doing work, like literally anything. I would be listening to a podcast or music. I really didn't embrace or lean into silence at all. And honestly, now going on walks without music or doing chores without music or driving without music, whatever, it's allowed me to be more present in those moments. It's allowed me to be more intentional. And another tool that I use is just coming back to my breath. The idea isn't to not have any thoughts and never let our mind drift, right? That's not the point of mindfulness or meditation. The work is in recognizing when we do drift, when we are thinking about that 10th thing on our to-do list instead of being present for where we are right now, and simply coming back. And an easy way to do that is just returning to the breath. And every time that we return to trying to be a little bit more present in this moment, even just for a minute or two, we are rewiring our brain to be able to be more present. Not only for these mundane moments, but for the bigger ones, the ones that we're really looking forward to. And finally, another tool that's just been so impactful, especially recently in my life, is meditation. And again, not meditating all day, every day, that's not the point, but in incorporating meditation in our life. What it does is it's wiring us and training us to be more capable, to be more present throughout our day, from these small mundane moments to the bigger ones. The idea isn't to get rid of any distractions or thoughts, it's to strengthen our capability and that muscle to be able to show up more intentionally and to be present for all of our life, not just that 23%. And again, if we don't practice being present for the 77%, for those mundane in-betweens, then it's going to be really hard to be present for the 23 that we really want to be. And so between coming back to the breath, incorporating daily meditation, just noticing when your mind has drifted, maybe practicing doing these seemingly boring tasks in silence, these are all things that can help us be more present and be more intentional for these moments that an old version of us just wants to fast forward through. But that means we're fast forwarding through our life. We're missing most of our life if we don't start to be more present for these moments. So as uncomfortable as it might feel, as much as the world and society is going to tell you to keep rushing and to do 10 things at once, make it your intention, your mission to be more present and slow down in 1 or 2 mundane tasks today, and then make it a different one tomorrow. Notice how this helps you be more present for all aspects of your life. And the beautiful thing is every single moment is an opportunity to practice this. You don't need to buy anything. There's nothing you need to purchase, no hack or tool that you need to fully master or understand. You can come back to the breath right now. You can start to practice these in any in-between moment. Maybe start to even see it as a game, like how present can I be for this commute, even though that guy that's honking at me is pissing me off, or this laundry feels really boring and I don't want to do it, but maybe I'm just going to try to be really present for it and see how it goes. Because life is short and we don't want to miss out on 77% of our lives just because we weren't present for it. So I hope there was something in today's episode that resonated with you. If it did, please press follow or subscribe wherever you are listening, and also leave a comment on the show if you enjoyed it. Would love to hear your thoughts. And I'll see you all again soon on your journeys to living this life fully.